Have you ever looked on Amazon for a tent? There are literally hundreds of brands available, all from wildly different price ranges and all of them claiming why they are the best. And this one here nearly does it. It's so close to being the budget backpacking tent. But don't just push this aside, because even though I have some criticisms, it's still a very good value, and here's why. Throughout the end of the winter and into the spring, I've been testing this Atepa one-person ultralight backpacking tent. Today we're gonna go over my experience, what I like, what I don't like, what they got right, and what they got wrong. And if I'm being honest, I've got a lot to say about this tent. Also, this video is not sponsored, and everything in this video is my own opinion. Let's first talk about the specs and the features on this tent. This is a one-person, 3-season freestanding tent, meaning that it can stay upright without needing to be staked out, and it has its own poles. It has lots of headroom. It's 41 inches tall, so about 3.5 feet. The interior is rectangular and spacious, measuring 77 inches long by about 40 inches wide. It gives you plenty of room to move around on the inside without being too big, or on the other side, not feeling too cramped. It's also a nice size and comes in at a weight of 3 pounds 12 ounces, which is exactly what they say on their website. And that's with everything: the tent, rainfly, stakes, poles, and the stuff sack. I also like to see that because the brand is telling the truth about the weight of the tent and not advertising it as lighter than it really is. It honestly annoys me when brands give you like trail weight and minimum packed weight and footprint pitch weight. Just tell me the weight of the tent. There are also big doors on each size, along with a kind of small storage pocket at the head of the tent. There is a fabric pouch on the exterior underneath each of the vestibules to put your gear. While this does add just a little bit of weight, I'm kind of a fan of it. The poles are made of aluminum and are one single connected unit, with the top head spacer being pre-bent. As for materials, the entire tent is basically made out of 20D nylon with a silicone coating and tape sealed seams. The Rainfly has a 4,000 millimeter plus waterproof rating. Numbers like that don't really make any sense to me, but I tested this in rain and wind, so I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. Okay, so we gotta talk about the packaging that this tent comes in, or with its like stuff sack whole situation. First off, you have this roll top style stuff sack, which is pretty non-typical for tents, I would say. But also, there are 3 compression straps on the outside, which are completely not necessary. There is a Velcro one right here that is removable, so you don't need that. But then also 2 buckle ones that are stitched to the actual stuff sack. These buckle ones and the extra Velcro one, you should remove or cut off, do whatever you gotta do, and just don't bring them, because it's overkill and completely not necessary. And honestly, the whole roll top stuff sack is a little bit overkill, a little bit too much. It also doesn't really create a tight fit with the tent. I think most of us backpackers like our tents to be a little more compacted down inside a stuff sack, where you really can't with this unless you want to bring the compression straps. But then you got 3 extra straps on the outside of your stuff sack that you got to bring and deal with every single time. Like, it compresses it down, but like these things are just too much. So as for my own testing, there are a few things that I noticed right away when setting up this tent. And first off, 2 sort of small things. The pole ends are not glued to the poles of the tent, and I noticed them popping out every single time I set up the tent. Also, the doors wouldn't stay open. They kept falling loose in light wind, and this is because the door tiebacks aren't tight enough. These are both pretty small issues and aren't really a problem, but they are just small quality of life things that would make setting up and using this tent much more enjoyable. The stakes that come with the tent feel nice and actually feel like quality tent stakes. These are basically the same exact thing as my Big Agnes copper spur stakes, and 6 of these stakes come in at a weight of 2 ounces. And I hate to say this, but I did notice some fraying on the stitching before I even spent a single night in the tent. The fraying itself is not causing any issues, but it is disappointing to see and probably the biggest red flag. Now, as for waterproofing, this thing has done very well. It survived multiple nights of rain and high winds. When I checked the inside of the tent the morning after some rain and storms, there were no water leaks on the inside.
It's fine. I think it survived a night in the rain.
Nice job, Atepa tent. It survived a test out in the rain and like a lot of rain, so that's a good sign. I'm glad to see that. All right, I'm gonna put this thing away before it blows away because it's getting really windy. The rain fly held up pretty well, but it was sort of loose on the tent the next morning, but I also could have tightened it up a little bit more. In above average winds, like 30 miles per hour for 2 days, the vestibules began to fall loose and flop around. But that also could have been my fault because where I staked the vestibule in, or the rain fly down, the soil was pretty loose and like kind of muddy. It was just like, you know, it's the beginning of the spring, snow is melted, the ground is wet. So I could have done a better job staking this down. So I can't really say if that's the tent's fault or if it's my fault. I'm kind of leaning more towards it was my fault. As for ventilation, after I spent one night in this, I woke up to significant condensation on the inside. So there's a decent amount of moisture inside this tent. I could feel it when I was sleeping, but now that I take the rain fly off, like look at all this. There in the sunlight now, you can see it quite a bit. It's all water. On the underside of the rain fly, like that's all moisture. Yeah. I feel like there could be some better ventilation to this guy. All that, yeah, you can see all that water over there. That's all moisture from me sleeping overnight. One of the most annoying things to me is waking up in the morning and rubbing against wet tent walls because they are covered in condensation. One of the things that they advertise about this tent is that it has really good ventilation, where in my opinion, it probably needs to be better. But what I like about this tent is that it's actually a spacious one-person tent. Usually people size up to a two-person tent so they have a little bit extra space because one-person tents are typically pretty cramped. But with this one, you will actually be comfortable in this by yourself. It's big enough to not be cramped, but small enough to not really be a waste of space. And as for the price of this tent, it comes in at $140, which is actually a pretty good price. When I first started backpacking, I 100% would have bought this tent, and with the improvements that I'm going to suggest, $140 would be a fantastic deal. And as for those small improvements, Atepa, I'm talking to you. If you would just give a little bit more attention to detail, even just the small things, this tent could 100% be one of the top competing budget backpacking tents in the market, and one that I would actually fully 100% recommend. First off, just working on the small things like getting the doors to stay open with the door tiebacks, gluing the pole ends into the end of the poles, and removing the pointless straps with the stuff sack. And if you're gonna do the whole dry bag thing, just make it fit the tent a little bit better. As for some of the larger improvements, giving the tent a bit more ventilation could make a huge difference with the condensation on the inside. And watching the frame with the stitching, like that's the biggest red flag to me. I would love to see like an Atepa tent 2.0 where you actually take these issues and fix them and make it better, because if so, this would be a top competitor in the budget backpacking gear community. But keep the price where it's at, because if you do, this would be an amazing deal for a backpacking tent. It's already a pretty good deal. It's just those small issues that make it not the greatest. Like just fixing these small things is gonna make such a huge difference. So I know I just said like what this needs to improve on and how it's not the greatest, but there is a lot I like about this tent, and it's one that I'm going to keep and like lend to my friends whenever they wanna go backpacking with me, or something I might still continue to use on my own. I do love the spacious interior. Like there's a ton of room to move around inside, especially for this being a one-person tent. If I'm being honest, I kind of thought it was this really small two-person tent right away, but it's just a bigger, like truly good sized one-person tent. There's also a lot of headroom. Like you can sit up just fine and have plenty of room to sit inside the tent and be comfortable, which is great. The fabric underneath the vestibules, while not necessary, it's a nice touch, and I think a lot of people are gonna really like that. And lastly, I am very happy that this performed well in the rain and the wind. There you have it, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the Atepa one-person ultralight backpacking tent. If you made it this far in the video, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you want to take it a step further, consider becoming a member on Patreon or a YouTube member, as everything you guys support me with will help make this YouTube channel possible. Thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.